Ghost Castle for the Nintendo Famicom, or is it the Nintendo Entertainment System? Who knows? This is actually a pirate game that is not a hack of a pre-existing game or a demake of a higher-end game, but rather its own original game to call its own, or kinda, sort of. There's actually a variant of this game called Clown's Mission, which might be a remake of this, or this is a vice versa. I don't know. Unfortunately, there isn't a whole lot of information on Ghost Castle, other than it was designed by Chinese game developer Nice Code Software, and it's one of the many games featured on this 500-in-1 multi-card thing. The one with the red cartridge is presumably from the same folks that brought us this Super Games 150-in-1 multi-card thing. And I'm assuming they both have red shells, they have similar cartridge layouts, label layouts. I guess they both use Super Games. I bought both of mine from the flea market, and I will tell you one thing. When it comes to a point where you had to have a multi-card, you have to buy an NES multi-card, for whatever reason, hypothetically speaking, and you had a choice between these two multi-cards, the 500-in-1 and the 150-in-1, I would suggest going for the 150-in-1, because while this might have more games, 400, 500 versus 150, while this might have more games, this has more quality games all around. This is kind of hit and miss, but today's featured game is on this. But I am digressing from the epic masterpiece that is Ghost Castle for the NES Famicom multi-card. Let's just get on with the footage, because I think I'm dragging this out far too long. Probably longer than necessary. This video might actually last longer than the game itself, but I may have shown my hand a little too early. Anyways, cut to the footage.
In Ghost Castle, you play as this guy. Who is this guy? I don't know who this guy is. For the purposes of this video, we shall call this guy Mike. Mike the guy. Yeah, there we go. We'll call him Mike the guy. So in Ghost Castle, you take control of Mike the guy, who's in this castle holding a stick of some kind and must fend off against ghosts with his magic bullets or something. Your main objective in Ghost Castle is to knock off the vampire on top. We'll just call him the Count. So you have to kill the Count, which only takes a couple hits, and he's the only one who attacks consistently. All the other ghosts or blobs or whatever you want to call them attack once in a while, and whenever they feel like it. Killing the Count knocks a hit point off the meter on top, at which point you have to kill another Count. As you kill more Counts, the meter eventually goes down, and once the meter is completely empty, or in the case of later levels, just low enough, you move on to the next stage, which is the same as before, with virtually no change to layout, challenge, or fun factor. Now, if Mike the guy is hit by a projectile, he loses a hit point and is stunned momentarily. Fortunately or unfortunately, Mike the guy has a lot of hit points, and these regenerate between stages, so he'll last long in a fight. Presumably much longer than you'll last playing this actual game. Mike the guy moves left or right. That's it. This one lane is your safe zone in Ghost Castle. You can't bounce up or down, you can't switch lanes, and that's simple enough. But what isn't simple enough is shooting. See, to shoot you have to hold down a button. The A button, the B button, either one works. And while you're holding down said button, you have to push in the direction you want to shoot, and you'll shoot in that direction. You could shoot upwards or downwards or diagonally, but not left or right for obvious reasons. This control scheme is something you would expect from an old Atari 2600 game with one button, and even then, that setup has a tendency of feeling cumbersome, and Ghost Castle does nothing to change that. This is a really bad means of implementing simple fire commands, but that's what you're stuck with in Ghost Castle. Instead of constantly mashing the fire button, you're now engaging in constantly mashing a D-pad, and to this day, there's no turbo fire functionality for your digital pad, because that would be stupid. This game is a joke. Despite the presence of interactivity and control, there's a notable lack of gameplay or substance. The only true increase in difficulty, and I use the term extremely loosely here, is that the boss meter, for lack of a better term, has a few more hit points each stage you progress, which only means you have to kill more counts. This meter breaks 10 stages in, however, as the stage will clear when only a few bars are left in the meter, which is perhaps Ghost Castle's means of showing mercy to players who willingly torture themselves with prolonged gaming sessions. The overall challenge is non-existent. Yes, there's a bit of activity at the beginning, and I'm actively trying to be clever and shooting the count from an angle whenever he can be bothered to show up, that is, because it's generally randomized when he'll show up. But after a few stages, I realized I could just sit here and shoot upwards. That gets the job done just as well. To illustrate this point a bit further, here's some footage of me playing Ghost Castle on my FC Twin Clone system, which explains why I'm using a Super Nintendo controller. This is actual gameplay in action. This is actual gameplay that has gone on for the last 5 to 10 minutes of gameplay before I finally gave up and just... enough. I never died in Ghost Castle because it takes forever to kill Mike the Guy, since ghosts only shoot at random while the count only shoots downwards, and with a timed shot, you can kill the count without much effort. It's pretty pathetic, actually. The only positive there is to be had in Ghost Castle is that even the graphics are... they're okay, I guess. I like the title screen. As simple as it may be, it's a nice little piece of pixel artwork. The background on the level is pretty decent looking, actually. I like the lighting effects on the windows, it's a nice touch. Both Mike the Guy, the Count, and the occasional maiden that serves no real purpose on the bottom are consistent with each other. The ghosts are... it's a nice looking game is all I'm saying here. As far as sound is concerned... you hear that song that's playing in the video, you hear that ditty in the background, you hear it? This is the only song that plays throughout the entirety of Ghost Castle. Unabated, uninterrupted, maybe a slight disruption when you clear a stage, but other than that, this is the only piece of auditory information that plays throughout the game. There are no other pieces of music, there are no sound effects of any kind, and the real kicker, the song continues to play while the game is paused. Now that's just tremendous. Disclaimer, may not be tremendous. Ghost Castle is a farce of a game that, fortunately, is relegated to the oddball bootleg multi-cart or plug-and-play system you'll find in the wild, and likely never saw an individual release on its own Nintendo Game Pack. That is, assuming the bootleg game's wiki is accurate in this regard. As such, there's a very good possibility you will never come across this game in your lifetime, and that might ultimately make you a better person for it. But if you stumble across a multi-cart or a plug-and-play console and this game is part of the package, then by all means do not play it. Because there is nothing to see here and nothing to be gained from putting up with a shoddy game even within the simplistic standards of relatively simple gaming. All in all, if you want a simple game to play in your spare time, just stick with big rigs over-the-road racing. It may be broken, it may be incomplete, but you'll get more mileage out of that one than you will out of Ghost Castle.